Hi, thank you once again for joining me in the Louis File. I got these little quick going videos here today. We're going to look in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. One of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorites. The Apostle Paul says, I am crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. So, in Romans 7, we see where Paul says, it's not I, but sin. And here in Galatians 2:20, Paul is saying, it's not I, but Christ. So we're starting to get a picture here of realizing, my wife likes to say, it's not about you, but it includes you. And that is so true. It's a great statement. So the Apostle Paul discovers this. He goes, I'm trying to keep God's law, but I can't seem to do it. And then I realize there's sin operating in my members, in my flesh. I need rescue. Oh yeah, Jesus Christ rescued me. Well, how did he rescue me? Well, he rescued me through the cross. But it wasn't just him dying that day on that cross. It was me dying that day on that cross. I have been crucified with Christ. That so-called independent, self-operating self has been crucified with Christ. And he says, but I'm still living. Well, the new I, the new Paul, the new man, the new creature that's now in Christ, the one that's joined with him because of being crucified, buried, and raised, joined with him to walk in new life. There's the I have been crucified, but then there's a nevertheless I'm living. But then he goes, you know what? It's not really me living. It's Christ now living. He's living my life. And the life that I'm now living, I'm living by the faith of the Son of God. It's quite remarkable, because it's like, how do you in human words describe or define or even begin to approach the enormity and the glory of becoming one with Christ by way of his Spirit? How do you say that? But you know, the Apostle Paul's whole message, underlying message throughout all of his letters and teachings is the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, and you joined in it. You've been joined in the cross. You've been brought into Christ's death. You've been buried with him and raised up now with him as your life. It's not just him added to your life, but he has become your life. So now, the life we live by faith in the Son of God who loved us and gave himself up for us. Oh my gosh. In Colossians 3 it says, you have died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. In Ephesians 2 it says, even while we were dead in our trespasses, that God, by his love and his mercy, let me read it real quick. Ephesians 2, verse 5, even when we were dead in our transgressions, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you've been saved. He placed sinful you and me into Christ on that cross, and he crucified us with him. And when Jesus was buried, we went into the grave with him. And when that took place, that spirit, that spirit of error, that sin that was troubling Paul in Romans 7 and is troubling all of us as we come to see it, that spirit, that sin comes out because we're dead. So the spirit leaves a dead body. So, but God, by his mercy, grace, and foreknowledge, and forethought, and planning, and he says, my son is sinless. He didn't earn this death. He wasn't meant to die. I mean, he is everlasting life. And now that the Apostle Paul, Louis, and you, and whoever's put their faith and entrusted the only begotten Son of God, now we're joined here. And when Jesus is raised up, God, the Father raises Jesus up. He raises us up with him. We are now set free we're forgiven for sins, but we're also set free from sin, the spirit of error, the prince of the power of the air, according to Ephesians 2, that's now working in the sons of disobedience. That spirit is no longer within us. We now have Christ in us, the hope of glory, restored. The fullness of the Godhead dwelt in Jesus Christ in bodily form, and in him you have been made complete. It makes me want to run around the table. So we're trusting Christ, period. We're trusting what He has done, not what we have done. The only thing we've done that's worthwhile is put our trust in Him. That's it. That's all we've done worthwhile. So it's not I, but sin in Romans 7. And here in Galatians 2:20, it's not I, but Christ. So it's not about you, but it does include you. You are now an expressor of God. You are the imager. You are an expression of the invisible God. Christ in you is now operating in your bodily members. Amazing. Just embrace it. Just let Him do it. Just let Him be Himself in you today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next Louis File.